I hate how buttoned up everything has become. I hate how everybody has to have the same opinion on this, and this all goes back to 2016.
Geeks and Gamers start. I've read interviews. You wanted it to be this like gamer bar type thing without the alcohol, and that was the initial idea with Geeks and Gamers, and obviously it's turned into this online brand that is some people see as controversial. You've said that yourself. Why do you feel that Geeks and Gamers is seen as controversial in today's world?
Because most people in the gaming world are bitches and they run with the leftist narrative and the social justice narratives. And Geeks and Gamers kind of stands out a lot because most gaming companies, most gaming websites, most prominent people in the gaming world are politically correct and they don't actually have any opinions of their own. And whereas Geeks and Gamers represents just individuals. And I'm all about individuality and let people be who they want. I don't like to determine how a person acts or what they do or what they think. I like to give people freedom to think what they want, and you can agree with me, you can disagree with me, but I kind of feel like that's where Geeks and Gamers separates themselves from everyone else. It's just a lot of individuals coming together and not having a singular narrative that we focus around. Obviously, we get branded that we're right wing and we're Trump supporters because I am a Trump supporter. So therefore, everybody must be a Trump supporter. That's just not the reality of the situation. But most current, like I'd say in the last definitely within the last 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years, like the modern gaming culture has just become very watered down. And it lends itself to politically correct people. And that's why we get so much backlash because we're just not that.
You said, you said like gay and retarded. These are words that were used a lot, like, I'd say in the 90s, right? And now they're kind of like taboo. But
Yep.
I feel like, you guys use those, and then you see people say, oh, they're homophobic, right? I don't know what how do you respond to something like that?
I mean, it used to bother me at first when I was called racist and sexist and misogynistic and homophobic. It used to bother me a lot when it first was happening because those are words that actually did mean something back when I was growing up. When you got labeled that, it actually meant like, oh man, that guy's racist. Well, that's not good. You don't want to be associated with a racist because racist people are bad. And, but now it's turned into where those words have lost all their meaning, and now it's almost become a compliment to be called a racist or a sexist or a misogynist in today's world, because those words simply just mean that this person disagrees with, or this person has different opinions than me, and they don't line up with what I'm saying, and they don't follow the narrative. And it's like, well, that's exactly right, then that's what I am. But at first it bothered me. Now it means nothing to me. Like, you can call me a racist, a sexist, whatever. I'll just laugh at you and I'll just continue on and I'll wear it with a badge of honor. But that's a representative of what the left and the social justice propaganda have done with those words. They have co-opted those words to mean absolutely nothing. And I'm at a point now where I'm desensitized to it completely.
I feel like there was a you said something, and I've talked about this before on streams, but those words meant a lot, I think, to everybody growing up. If you were called any of those things, it was like, whoa. As you said, you stay away from people like that. That's people you don't want to be around. And when I think of people who are racist, I think of, the traditional KKK, white hood, piece of shit guys who are, whatever, right? And I think that at a certain point, somewhere in like some sort of executive position was threatened with those words, and that's kind of, they were the first to bend the knee, which ultimately created this domino effect of these words meaning, and they were probably our age, right? And so they were like, oh shit, I don't want to be called this, I don't want to be branded this, and then ultimately they bent the knee, and they're like, because it meant something to them, right? And over time, there was this domino effect that trickled down to where now, once again, we're at this point to where it's like those words have almost, as significant as those words are, they've lost all value because of overuse, right? We had a guy in our comments yesterday talk about the idea of, if you're not woke, it's like it's like you're looking at a Nazi party. It's like that's the biggest stretch I think I've ever seen. If like the idea that if you don't believe a certain way, you're a Nazi,
Yep.
and that's kind of where we're at right now. Which I've used this analogy to you personally, but I just want to kind of say this publicly. I feel like, you know, ScrewAttack back in the day was kind of the anti-culture of gaming, and I feel like that's what Geeks and Gamers is now. You guys are the pushback on all the, you know, we push back against the corporate nature of the gaming space, the suit and tie, the IGN nature of it. Everything's buttoned up and nice and clean and pretty. Where ScrewAttack was the exact opposite. It was homemade. It was gritty. It was gross. Whereas now, you know, these brands have shifted to this, you know, justice and social justice and all this stuff, and woke, and you guys are the polar opposite of that.
Yeah, it's crazy how far this has come for me and for G&G and everything. And I still, at my core, am that same person. I don't do things the normal way. I am not a very smart businessman. I'm just not. Hell, you know this. Me and you've had internal discussions. I don't do things the normal way. For instance, like I've been accused of running an MCN, a multi-channel network. Okay. That's where basically you have all these other channels that are under your umbrella. You take a percentage and all of that. I don't take anything from anybody's channel that's not my direct channel. I just don't. And I've grown a lot of fucking channels. And Geeks and Gamers, like, I know for a fact, and I know exactly what we have. And I know when I pull somebody onto my channel and I highlight them and bring them part of my team, people are going to go to their channel and they're going to donate to them. They're going to support them. And I don't have any agreements with anybody because that's just not how I'm wired. I'm wired to just be an authentic person, to tell the people what I think and let the people determine who they want to support and how they want to support them. And that kind of goes into the whole idea of my mindset of everything. And that's why we are the kind of the anti-establishment of sorts of the gaming world now. And it's not something I intended to do. It's not something I set out to do. I just look at the standard, you know, the status quo, I guess, and I hate it. I hate how buttoned up everything has become. I hate how everybody has to have the same opinion on this. And this all goes back to 2016. 2016, when Trump got elected. And this is a point in history that will be discussed for the rest of time. Everybody's got to have their story. I'm a Trump supporter. I was a Trump supporter. I always have been. I voted for Trump in 2016. I didn't talk about this. Geeks and Gamers was a thing in 2016, but it wasn't a thing like it is now. We just, you know, but everything's relative. So no matter how big my following was back then versus what it is now and what it's going to be in 10 years, it's all relative. So back in 2016, even though my following was small by my standards today, my following was huge to me back then because it's all relative. If I had 100 people following me, that meant the world to me. You know what I mean? Because that's my community. I probably had maybe, I don't remember. We had a Facebook group that had like maybe 10 or 15,000 members, but a Facebook group is an open forum.
Right.
We had a YouTube channel that had less than 1,000 subscribers. It got maybe 100 views per video. All of this is going on. We did have the website, and I was proud of what we had. I didn't talk about being a Trump supporter publicly. I didn't feel it was my job as the guy that created this thing to talk about my politics, because I didn't feel that my politics are anybody's business. That's how I've always been, you know, like, yeah, I'll talk about it with my friends and my family, but as a business owner, as a representative of something, I don't think my politics are important, and they shouldn't be, just like no one else's are either. But then as things progressed, I started to see the weaponization of Trump supporters. And I started to see a lot of these activists online. And for instance, there would be like a conversation, like, I don't know, a random company, and that random company had a CEO, and maybe that CEO is a Trump supporter, and maybe they weren't. And I saw the activists going, I hear so-and-so with this company is a Trump supporter. We need to find out so we can cancel them. And I'm looking at that going, well, I don't want to be in this position ever, to have an audience that will turn on me if they find out that I voted for Trump. I don't ever want to be in that position. And I started to look at Geeks and Gamers as to where it was in that point in time, and I didn't feel we had grown. I didn't feel like we were doing anything. So I told my entire team, I'm like, hey, I've already allowed my entire team at this point to say whatever they wanted. Say what you want, speak on issues you want to speak on. I don't give a shit. But I didn't talk about it. They all knew where I stood privately. So 2017, I decided I'm going to start talking about more controversial things that I'm seeing and not holding back. And I'm not going to apologize for being a Trump supporter. I'm going to get ahead of the weaponization of this guy might be a Trump supporter. You're goddamn right I was a Trump supporter, and I'm going to tell you, and I'm never going to apologize for it. That was my attitude going into it. Again, the rebellious nature. And so 2017, towards the end of 2017, I was mega excited for The Last Jedi. I thought it was going to be a great movie. And this is all kind of intertwining into me wanting to be more outspoken about things I am seeing. And so I decided to start doing that more opinionated stuff. Luckily for me, The Last Jedi came out. And so it kind of was a perfect storm of me talking about being a Trump supporter and criticizing The Last Jedi. A lot of people on my team quit. I'd say about 6 or 7 people quit as soon as I started talking about being a Trump supporter publicly. They knew they knew privately I was a Trump supporter, but publicly they couldn't stand by me. Go ahead.
So these are people who had they publicly talked about their politics or anything like that?
Yes.
And so the idea of they didn't
on my platform, on my website, politics that I disagreed with, I allowed them to do it.
So they knew where you were privately, but as soon as you said publicly, they didn't want to be associated with you, mainly because of the association of being a Trump supporter.
Right. They couldn't. Their social circles would not accept them being connected to a public Trump supporter. And I knew these people. I had relationships with these people. I had personal friendships with these people. They had my phone number. I've worked with them through personal problems. But the moment the Trump line gets drawn in the sand, suddenly you're horrible. And they said a lot of bad things about me. They said I was this, they said I was that. And it was, again, it bothered me because these are people I personally knew. And so that kind of set me on the path that led me to kind of where I'm at today. But that was the beginning steps of like, I'm not going to apologize for this. I'm only going to do more of what you say I shouldn't do because I'm not asking for your permission. And that was the point where Geeks and Gamers went from a little bitty kind of group of people, which is awesome, to something that's pretty cool these days. And so that kind of anti-gaming industry stuff, that's where it started. And it really comes back to Trump.
Hey, if you enjoyed that clip, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Would greatly appreciate that so you can find more clips on the channel. And of course, come join us live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time for our live Side Scrollers podcast. We would love to see you there.